I do not know myself. Who am I? I need to know. If I do not know, what meaning does my life have? And what in me responds to life? So I must try to answer, to see who I am. First, my thought steps back and brings suggestions about myself. I am a man or woman who can do this, who has done that, who possesses this and that. My thinking volunteers possible answers from all that it knows. But it does not know what I am, does not really know me in this moment. Then I turn to my feeling. It is among the centers most capable of knowing. Can it answer? My feeling is not free. It has to obey the me who wants to be the greatest, the most powerful, and who suffers all the time from not being first. So my feeling does not dare. It is afraid or doubts. How can it know? Then, of course, there is my body, the capacity to sense my body. But am I my body? In fact, I do not know myself. I do not know what I am. I know neither my possibilities nor my limitations. I exist, yet I do not know how I am existing. I believe my actions are affirming my own existence, yet I am always responding to life with only one part of myself. I react either emotionally or intellectually or physically, and it is never really I who responds. I also believe I am moving in the direction I want to go and that I can do. But in fact, I am acted upon, moved by forces that I know nothing about. Everything in me takes place, everything happens. The strings are pulled without my knowing. I do not see that I am like a puppet, a machine set in motion by influences from outside. At the same time, I sense my life passing as if it were the life of another person. I vaguely see myself being agitated, hoping, regretting, afraid, bored, all without feeling that I am taking part. Most of the time I act without knowing it, and realize only afterward that I said this or did that. It is as though my life unfolds without my conscious participation. It unfolds while I sleep. From time to time, jolts or shocks awaken me for an instant. In the middle of an angry outburst, or grief or danger, I suddenly open my eyes. What? It's me, here, in this situation, living this. But after the shock, I go back to sleep, and a long time can pass before a new shock awakens me. As my life passes, I may begin to suspect that I am not what I believe. I am a being who is asleep, a being with no consciousness of himself. In this sleep, I confuse intellect, the thought, functioning independently from feeling with intelligence, which includes the capacity to feel what is being reasoned. My functions, my thoughts, feelings, and movements work without direction, subject to random shocks and habits. It is the lowest state of being for man. I live in my own narrow, limited world commanded by associations from all my subjective impressions. This is a return, my prison. Prison to which I always return, my prison. The search for myself begins with questioning where I am. I have to feel the absence, the habitual absence of I. I must know the feeling of emptiness and see the lie in always affirming an image of myself, the false I. We are all the time saying I, though we do not really believe in it. In fact, we have nothing else in which we can believe. It is the wish to be that pushes me to say I. It is behind all my manifestations, but this is not a conscious impulse. Usually I look to the attitude of others in order to be convinced of my being. If they reject or ignore me, I doubt myself. If they accept me, I believe in myself. Am I only this image that I affirm? Is there really no I who could be present? In order to respond, I need to know myself, to have a direct experience of knowing myself. First, I have to see the obstacles that stand in the way. I must see that I believe in my mind, my thinking, believe it is I. I wish to know, I have read, I have understood. All this is the expression of the false I, my ordinary I. It is my ego that prevents me from opening to consciousness, from seeing what is and what I am. My effort to awaken cannot be forced. We are afraid of emptiness, afraid to be nothing, and so we make an effort to be otherwise. But who makes this effort? I must see that this too comes from my ordinary I. All forcing comes from the ego. I must no longer be fooled by an image or an ideal that is imposed by the mind. I need to accept emptiness, accept to be nothing, accept what is. In this state, the possibility of a new perception of myself appears. Real I comes from essence. Its development depends on the wish of essence, a wish to be, and then a wish to become able to be. Essence is formed from impressions that are assimilated in early childhood, usually up to the age of 5 or 6, when a fissure appears between essence and personality. In order to develop further, essence must become active in spite of resistance from the pressure of personality. We need to remember ourselves for our essence to receive impressions. Only in a conscious state can we see the difference between essence and personality. Ordinarily, impressions are received in a mechanical way. They are received by our personality, which reacts with automatic thoughts and feelings that depend on its conditioning. We do not assimilate impressions because personality itself cannot be alive. It is dead. In order to be assimilated and transformed, impressions have to be received by essence. This requires a conscious effort at the moment of the impression, and it requires a definite feeling, a feeling of love for being present. We must respond to impressions no longer from the vantage point of personality, but from love for being present. This will transform our whole way of thinking and feeling. The first necessity is to have an impression of myself. This begins with a shock when the question, "Who am I?" arises. For an instant, there is a stop, an interval that allows my energy, my attention, to change direction. It turns back toward me, and the question now touches me. This energy brings a vibration, a note that did not sound until now. It is subtle, very fine, but nevertheless communicates. I feel it. It is an impression I receive, an impression of a life in me. All my possibilities are here. What follow? Whether I will open to the experience of presence depends on the way I receive this impression. A call to consciousness. We do not understand the moment of receiving an impression and why it is so important. We need to be present because it is the shock of the impression that drives us. If there is nobody here at the moment an impression is received, I react automatically, blindly, passively, and am lost in the reaction. I refuse the impression of myself as I am. In thinking, in reacting, in interposing my ordinary I in the reception of this impression, I close myself. I am imagining what I am. I do not know the reality. I am the prisoner of this imagination, the lie of my false I. Usually I try to awake by forcing, but it does not work. I can and must learn to awake by opening consciously to the impression of myself and seeing what I am at the very moment. This will be a shock that awakens me, a shock brought by an impression that I receive. I requires a freedom to be in movement, not to stop the movement. In order to wish to be present, I must see that I am asleep. I am not here. I am enclosed in a circle of petty interests and avidity in which my I is lost. And it will remain lost unless I can relate to something higher. The first condition is to know in myself a different quality, higher than what I ordinarily am. Then my life will take on new meaning. Without this condition, there can be no work. I must remember there is another life and at the same time experience the life that I am leading. This is awakening. I awake to these two realities. I need to understand that by myself, without a relation with something higher, I am nothing. I can do nothing. By myself alone, I can only remain lost in this circle of interests. I have no quality that allows me to escape. I can escape only if I feel my absolute nothingness and begin to feel the need for help. I must feel the need to relate myself to something higher, to open to another quality.